And hello again, and this week we're looking at another Kontakt instrument, a sample library called Squelch from a company called Echo Collective. And this is a unique instrument. It is a instrument that very much is a sound design piece, but controllable through Kontakt, through the keyboard and the mod wheel. And it's essentially a library that is a recreation of a radio and all the various effects that you get when you tune between the dial, crackles and radio static and all kinds of interesting things. It's a very unique library. Echo Collective, I think, are a fairly new company. They have a couple of products out, and it's not a very expensive library, about $15. It's pretty straightforward. As you can see, the manual is a one-pager explaining the controls, and it is essentially the instrument and a reverb plugin, a reverb tab, I should say. Here you see the listing of the various samples. What they've done is they've recorded various radio sounds, static and drones, CB clicks, and each recording is playable through the Kontakt instrument, and I'll explain that as we get a bit further into the instrument. So let's take a look at the instrument now. So here it is, essentially only a couple of keys on the Kontakt instrument. Control the various switches. You can see switches 1 to 8. And each switch is a loop of different radio static and clicks and effects, if you want to call them. The knob that's entitled Squelch is essentially like a tuning dial on the radio and moves between the various sounds. And that's controlled by the mod wheel. I mean, it's not any more complex than that, but I think it's, as with anybody who's played with a radio, I think it's getting between those stations that are interesting. Now, one of the things that you'll find is that there is actually a couple of pieces of music that are on the loops that play, and it's almost like you have a distant radio station that's tuning in. This is their own music. It's not anything that you're going to have copyright issues with. They're copyright free for this instrument. So as you can hear, it's like tuning into a distant radio station, crackly music in the distance. Having the map to the keys allow it for a chance to play them musically. Here you have the reverb and essentially simple controls. You just turn it on this way. You get the send level and the length of the impulse response. As you can see, they also have radio chatter on the instrument, little samples of like CB talk and things like that. It's polyphonic in the sense that you can play more than one key at once, so you get different radio sounds. And of course the Squelch dial changes things up again. So I mean, it's really random in the sense that you kind of have to tune in what you're looking for. It's a very original idea. I think that if anybody who was a budding electronic musician played with radios when they were small, it's always exciting to tune between the dials and get those interesting sounds. It's not something you'd probably use for doing an orchestral work, but it does lend itself to things like electronic music. I suppose if you're doing one of the cage pieces for radio and other instruments, it probably would fit right in. but I can see it being used for something like horror or science fiction. I mean, you can heavily process the sounds. Um, they have a certain randomness, but of course they are loops. So you are going to kind of encounter the same sounds, especially when it comes to speech, that will repeat themselves. So maybe you want to be careful of that. I mean, for using it for sound design or something like that, where you need a radio in the background, or those kind of clicks and pops, and that make a scene. At the price, it's not an expensive library, and I think it's an interesting concept to make it a contact instrument rather than just a bunch of WAV files that you play separate of a sampler. It makes it a bit more musical to have it mapped to the keys and to play it rather than just play the WAV file in your DAW. So I quite like it, and again, it's not something I'd use all the time. I think it's worth giving someone like Echo Collective, who obviously have an imagination to do an instrument like this. I think it's worth giving them your money, because I think I'm really curious to see what else they will do. I'm sure they'll come up with a lot of original stuff, and at that price, again, if you're not concerned about using it for an orchestral score, if you can see using it in some electronic music, I think it's worth buying. So, I mean, worth a look. Echo Collective. The instrument is Squelch, and I will see you next time. Bye.